The first news is that banker arrested in 21 million fraud charges. A banker who vanished in an apparent suicide in 2012 and was wanted by the FBI in connection with a 20 million wire fraud case has been arrested in Georgia after being pulled over for a minor traffic violation. Aubrey Lee Price, 47, was stopped while driving on I-95 in Gillin County, GA on Wednesday for a tinted window violation. According to police officers said that it was clear Price was giving them false information during the stop, and were soon able to determine he was wanted by the FBI. Prince's arrest comes more than a year after a Florida judge declared him to be legally dead. Despite the judge's ruling, the FBI continued to search for him and had offered a reward of up to $20,000 for his capture. Price is scheduled to face a judge in an initial appearance at 10 a.m. Thursday at the federal courthouse in Brunswick. He is alleged to have funneled approximately $21 million of money held at the Montgomery Bank and trust in LGA2 security accounts. He then falsely represented the securities account balances to conceal his theft of funds or his trading losses, according to the FBI. A federal arrest warrant was issued for Price in the United States District Court in Brooklyn on June 28, 2012, after he was charged with wire fraud. In July 2012, the Security and Exchange Commission filed a complaint against Price and froze his assets. In order to conceal mounting losses of investor funds, Price created bogus account statements with false account balances, and returns that were provided to investors and bank regulators, the SEC said in a press release. Price has been known to fund, finance, and build churches in South America, along with doing mission work in the same areas, and has ties to Florida and Georgia. According to the FBI, he had traveled to Venezuela on June 2, 2012, just weeks before he vanished. Price had become the director of Montgomery Bank and Trust in January 2011, when a company he owned infused capital into the bank and acquired a controlling stake. According to his arrest affidavit, on June 18, 2012, Price told acquaintances in a 22-page letter entitled "Confidential Confession" for regulators that he had lost a large amount of money through trading activities, according to his arrest affidavit, and that he planned to kill himself by jumping from a ferry boat off the Florida coast. My depression and discouragement have driven me to deep anxiety, fear, and shame. I am emotionally overwhelmed and incapable of continuing in this life, said a confession letter that investigators believe was written by Price, according to the Associated Press. I created false statements, covered up my losses, and deceived and hurt the very people I was trying to help, he wrote. No one else had any knowledge of any fraudulent activity, Price said, according to ABC affiliate WSB-TV. Montgomery Bank and Trust fell in July 2012, less than a month after Price disappeared. Price had last been seen boarding a ferry boat in Key West, Florida, bound of Fort Myers, Florida on June 16, 2012. Surveillance footage purported to be a Price boarding the ferry has been posted to YouTube. Despite never finding his body, a Florida judge declared Price dead a year ago, the AP reports. The next news is elderly couple ran a marathon every day of 2013. A couple in their 60s ran a marathon every day in 2013, completing a year-long run around Australia on Tuesday. And they did it all while maintaining a raw, vegan diet, they say on their website. Janet Murray Wakeling, 64, and Ellen Murray, 68, finished their 365 consecutive marathon on December 31 in Melbourne, with their children and grandchildren among the 200 onlookers. They wrote on their Facebook page. Other runners began to run alongside them for the final stretch. A very emotional moment, and so wonderful to see them, they said of seeing their family. We were quite overwhelmed with such a wonderful welcome. Then today, January 1, then they ran their 366 consecutive marathon, which they say is a world record. Since setting out on their journey a year ago, they have run 97,900 977,000 706.75 miles according to their Facebook page. We are healthier, more physically fit, and have unlimited energy above beyond 60 years of age than in our earlier years. They wrote on their website, runningrollaroundaustralia.com. They wrote that during their New Year's Eve marathon, they stopped for a banana break and a green smoothie. They reportedly eat dozens of bananas a day and hope to lead by example, according to their website. They'll also be fundraising for several charities, including animal and human welfare groups. The next news is Colorado shooting victim's dad forgives classmates. The father of a 17-year-old girl who was fatally shot at her suburban Denver high school said Wednesday that he and his wife have forgiven the killer, and he asked others to do the same. Michael Davis said at a memorial service for his daughter, Claire, that the killer was blinded by anger and didn't know what he was doing. My wife and I forgive Carl Pearson for what he did, Davis said. We would ask all of you here and all of you watching to forgive Carl Pearson. He didn't want to what he was doing. Sheriff's investigators say Pearson shot Claire Davis at Aragon County High School on December 13. She died 8 days later. Pearson, 18, who was also a student at Aragon High, killed himself after shooting Davis. Investigators say his target was a speech coach who had disciplined him, and Davis was a random victim. Some law enforcement officers have vowed not to use Pearson's name and have referred to him publicly as the murderer. But Michael Davis was conciliatory. The young man that shot Claire had a name. His name was Carl Pearson, Davis said, fighting back tears with his wife, Desiree, at his side. Davis said Pearson allowed himself to become filled with anger, rage, and hatred. The factor is that Carl was so blinded by his emotions, he didn't know what he was doing. Davis said his daughter's last words were to ask Pearson, "Oh my gosh, Carl, what are you doing?" That was her way of trying to illuminate the emotional darkness that had enveloped Pearson, Davis said. Pearson was carrying a shotgun, more than 125 shotgun shells, a magnet, and 3 homemade firearms. when he entered the school. Investigators say the school was quickly placed in lockdown and a sheriff's deputy assigned to the school, James Englert, ran to confront him. Pearson shot himself as Englert closed in. Sheriff Grayson Robinson has said Englert's action to quickly confront Pearson prevented worse bloodshed. The next news is fierce winter storm bearing down on northeast U.S. Light snow was falling Thursday in part of the northeast as a winter storm bore down on the region, promising significant snowfall, strong winds, and frigid temperatures that will make commutes hazardous for the first work day of the new year. Snow began falling overnight in parts of New England and New York, but the real brunt of the storm wasn't expected to hit until later Thursday. As much as a foot of snow or more was forecast for some areas overnight Thursday into Friday, and the temperatures were expected to plummet, with some areas seeing highs just above zero, according to the National Weather Service. There will be travel problems, said Hugh Johnson, a Weather Service meteorologist in Albany, New York. It will be very cold. Up to 14 inches of snow is forecast for the Boston area, and the National Weather Service issued a blizzard warning for Long Island, where 8 to 10 inches of snow could fall and the winds could gust up to 45 mph from Thursday evening into Friday afternoon. Some schools in New England and New York closed preemptively or planned early dismissals, while cities issue on-street parking bans and homeless shelters were expected to fill beyond capacity. The storm dropped out to a foot of snow on parts of Michigan, and 6 inches or more in Illinois, prompting hundreds of flight cancellations on Wednesday into and out of Chicago's O'Hare International Airport, according to the aviation tracking website flyaway.com. About 1,000 U.S. flights were canceled for Thursday, with O'Hare and New Jersey's Newark Liberty International most affected. Authorities said the weather may have been a factor in a fatal crash Wednesday, evening involving a pickup and a bus carrying casino patrons in Indiana. Police said the truck's driver was killed and 15 bus passengers were injured in the collision on a snow-covered and slushy highway in rolling prairie. Sections of interior southern New England and New York could get up to a foot of snow by the time the storm moves out, with forecasts generally calling for 6 to 12 inches. New York City likely to see 3 to 7 inches. Issue a snow alert. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo urged the city's commuters to leave their cars at home in case major highways are closed for Thursday's evening rush hour. We are looking at a serious storm situation, Cuomo said. Also that the amounts of snow were forecast to the south. Philadelphia and parts of southern New Jersey was expected to 3 to 7 inches of blowing, drifting snow. In Tom's River, N.J. Jonas Caldwell said he was prepared for whatever the storm might bring. Santa brought me a snowblower, and I've got rock salt for the ice, so now I'm just waiting for the storm, he said while grabbing a coffee at a convenience store. Caldwell, an investment advisor, said he could work from home if necessary, but he was hoping that wouldn't be the case. There are too many distractions at home, he said, but I won't be stupid. If it gets as bad as they say it will be, or looks like it will, I will be staying put. In Hartford, Helguy of nearby Glastonbury was shopping for snow shovels, 3 to be exact. We broke a couple in the last storm, he said. We have 4 kids, so 3 shovels, and we still have a little one back home. Guy said 3 of his kids, girls ages 8, 10, and 12, have been out of school for 2 weeks for the holidays and hope to get a couple more days off with the snow. Over in Maine, where some communities are still recovering from a recent ice storm that cut power to more than 100,000 customers. People seem prepared for more winter weather. Kelly St. Dennis of Auburn went skiing Wednesday at the Sunday River Ski area with family and friends. She said it's been cold, but the skiing has been good. Hey, it's winter in Maine, she said. We go with it. Associated Press Winters Wilson Ring in Montpelier Viti Holly Rammer in Concord, NH, and David Sharp in Portland, Maine, and Bruce Shikowski in Toms River, NJ, New Jersey, contributed to this report. The next news is passengers rescued from icebound Antarctic ship. A helicopter rescued all 52 passengers from a research ship that has been trapped in Antarctic ice since Christmas Eve after weather conditions finally cleared enough for the operation Thursday. A helicopter carried the scientists and the tourists from the Russian ship MV Academic Sharkovsky in groups of 12 to an Australian icebreaker, said the Australian Maritime Safety Authority's Rescue Coordination Centre, which oversaw the rescue. The Aurora Australis will now take the passengers to the Australian island instead of Tasmania, a journey expected to last 2 weeks. I think everyone is relieved and excited to be going onto the Australian icebreaker and then home, expedition leader Chris Turney told the Associated Press by satellite phone from the Antarctic. All 22 crew members stay with the icebound vessel, which is not in danger of sinking and has weeks' worth of supplies on board. They will wait until the ice that surrounds the ship breaks up. The eagerly anticipated rescue came after days of failed attempts to reach the vessel. Blinding snow, strong winds, fog, and 6 feet ice forced rescuers to turn back time and again. 3 icebreakers were dispatched to try and crack their way through the ice surrounding the ship, but all failed. The Aurora came within 20 kilometers, 12 miles of the ship Monday, but fierce winds and snow forced it to retreat to open water. On Thursday, it appeared the weather had thwarted yet another rescue attempt. The helicopter was originally going to airlift the passengers to a Chinese icebreaker. The Snow Dragon with a barge then ferrying land to the Aurora. But sea ice prevented the barge from reaching the Snow Dragon, and the Maritime Authority said the operation would have to be delayed. A last-minute change in plans allowed the rescue to go ahead. The passengers were instead flown to an ice floe next to the overrun, and then taken by a small boat to the Australian ship. Turney said. The academic Sikorsky, which left New Zealand on November 28, got stuck after a blizzard pushed the sea ice around the ship, freezing it in place about 2,700 kilometers, 1,700 miles south of Hobart, Tasmania. The scientific team on board had been recreating Australian explorer Douglas Mawson's 1911 to 1913 voyage to Antarctica. Turney had hoped to continue their trip if an icebreaker managed to free the ship. Despite his disappointment over the expedition being cut short, he said his spirit remained high. I am a bit sad it ended this way, he said, but we got lots and lots of great science done. Associated Press writer Christine Janinian in Sydney contributed to this report.